Kia ora, hello, and this is Kristina Grace, the host of the Out of the Fog podcast. This is my 10-minute tip for the week for your mental health, and what I'm focusing on this week is sleep, and we will call this part 1 because sleep is a bigger issue than 10 minutes, but I wanted to follow up with a little bit of information about what research is telling us with regards to how sleep affects our mental health and vice versa. So for some of you who, especially if you have experienced or are experiencing depression or anxiety, you may find that it affects your sleep. Either you are struggling to sleep, or you struggling to get to sleep, or you are waking up in the night and finding it difficult to get back to sleep. Perhaps you have a baby, and even when baby is settled, you find it hard to settle. And for some people, they actually sleep too much. They could just sleep and sleep and sleep, and that is actually a real issue for them. So chances are, at some point or another, you have had your sleep affected by your mental health. So these are symptoms that we measure when we are trying to determine the severity of someone's depression or anxiety, is kind of what symptoms they're having with regards to sleep. So one of the things that we know is that when the depression or anxiety is well treated, the symptoms of sleep issues settle. So it may be that you are someone who needs medication to help treat your depression or anxiety. It may be that you have mild depression or anxiety and you are just making some lifestyle changes, looking at exercise, looking at diet, and engaging in therapy. And that is also considered treatment, and it may take longer than medication to take effect, and it will require a lot of hard work. But for those with mild to moderate depression or anxiety, it's definitely possible. So sleep tends to improve when your depression or anxiety is treated well, so it's treated effectively. So what can you do though to kind of help your sleep along? And really, I guess one of the things that you've probably heard of before is something called sleep hygiene. If you haven't, I will just kind of explain some of the examples of ways in which you can help your sleep, because as you'll know, sleep can massively impact how you are feeling. And so if you're not sleeping well, then obviously that's going to have an impact on how you're feeling in terms of your anxiety or depression. So some of the things that you can do is create a bit of a routine for yourself. So doing the same things before bed that you always do. For those of us who are perhaps less inclined to create a routine, it may be that you have to do this intentionally for a while. For some of you, you already have some patterns or habits that you do before bed, but let's just have a look at them and see if they're actually helpful. So one of the things that you can do is pretty much after dinner, after your evening meal, and it's a good idea that that's not too late, not too close to the time that you're going to bed, because digesting food and all of that is going to interfere with a good quality sleep. So after your evening meal, you may just want to start the process of winding down. So that winding down process, maybe you've got kids to settle and that will be your focus. But once the kids are settled and into bed, it's time to focus on settling you. And so it's totally fine to, watch a movie or have some screen time for a little while, but you don't want it to be your entire evening, because if it is your entire evening, that's going to disturb your sleep, and you'll know that from the blue light that comes from, whether it's the computer, whether it's from your phone, just the stimulation from whatever you're watching can interfere with your sleep. So if you've got a television in your bedroom, or you've got a laptop sitting, next to your bed, or you've got your phone, which is more likely, in your bed, that is time to get it out of there. So I would really encourage you that if you are going to have screen time in whatever way, that you keep it in the living room, in the living spaces, and that you plan to do stuff after that will help to settle you. So one of the things that you can do after you've had that screen time, if you decide to have that, might be dimming the lights. So you may not have a dimmer, but you might have lamps that you can turn on instead of the main lights. You might have just one or two lights on in rooms that are nearby rather than the one that you're in. By doing that, you're starting to increase your melatonin, and you're starting to settle your mind as it's becoming less stimulated and more geared towards sleep. You might find that you want to put a bath or a shower into your evening routine, especially if it relaxes you. If it has a tendency to wake you up, especially a shower, then maybe you may want to try something else, like a scented candle or some relaxing music. You might want to read a book. You may want to have an audio book. You might want to have a warm drink of some kind, whether it's chamomile tea, whether it's, sort of a warm milky drink. The idea is that you're not putting any caffeine in. Even if you're a person that says, "Oh no, I'm not affected by caffeine. I sleep pretty well. I'm not impacted by caffeine." Just really encouraging to not use a caffeinated drink in the evening at all. And if you do have a warm drink, not to do it so close to bedtime that you're going to wake up an hour later needing to use the bathroom. So just kind of be aware of that. The other thing to do also is just to make sure that the temperature in your room is just right. If it's too hot, it's going to interfere your sleep. And if it is too cold, but you do want it to have it to be on the side of cold-ish, because you will warm up as you sleep, and so if the room is too warm, it will wake you up. Whereas you will, if it's comfortable enough to go to sleep in, then just remember that you will warm up during the night. Light is a really big one, so whatever you can do to block out any light that may be coming in early in the morning, particularly if you, particularly as we're coming into these summer months, and the sun may be getting up quite early on. If it's streaming through your window, it's going to wake you up. Any lights on in the street, that will keep you awake. So we want to have really good blackout curtains or blinds. So just kind of keep that in mind, as well as noise. So noise can be a real issue, and sometimes we get used to noise and we can sleep well through it, but just to the best of your ability, try and control your environment and what is around you. Whether you need earplugs, whether you need to shut the window and have a fan on instead, or whatever the story is. If you are hot, having a fan or aircon on is a good idea. Just kind of think about temperature, think about noise, and think about light. And yeah, just make sure you've got a good comfortable pillow, that you've got a good mattress that's comfortable for you. If you've got aches and pains, that you're dealing with those during the day so they're not keeping you awake. Yeah, just little things like that. So sleep hygiene is kind of stopping doing things that would stimulate your brain close to bedtime and starting to do things that relax you and wind you down, and doing it as a pattern, as a routine, because your brain starts to recognize a pattern and recognize that, oh, it's time for bed. So that is kind of a really a bit of a part one to our sleep conversation, because it's a big one, and I hope it's helpful, and I hope that you can get some good rest. One little pointer is just to say that the watching the clock and doing the I have to sleep thing really doesn't work. And I encourage you to find ways in which if you're really having trouble falling asleep, just to make relaxation your goal, relaxing your body, relaxing your mind, and not necessarily having sleep as your goal. The main reason is because if you're going to sleep, it's going to be because you're relaxed. You won't be sleeping if you are really stressed about sleeping. So if you can get hold of some meditations and you want to try some meditations that help you sleep, a lot of them will be focusing just on resting your mind and having the goal of relaxing. So definitely give them a try. They definitely help me when I have trouble sleeping, which is not that often, but when I do, it really does help. Anyway, have a great week. I'll catch up with you next week, and we'll talk a little bit more about sleep.
I'm walking a tightrope between shadows.